I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
And here we go. It's another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. It's Wednesday, October 2nd. Welcome in, kiddos. We're in the Limback Lumber Studios. Of course, the PuckSports studios built by Limback Lumber. They've got all deals for you right now. Give them a call at 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbacklumber.com. And as Jim knows, ask for the Hugh Millen special. They'll know what you're talking about.
The Hugh Millen special?
The Hugh Millen special. They'll know what you're talking about.
Intended deck yards? Like what? What would the Hugh Millen special be?
They should have.
A deck that goes on and on and on and doesn't have an ending to it?
You know, they used to have, if we've told this story before, is that they used to, he used to work there. Back in the day,
oh,
that's
the
story. A lot of the Husky football players worked at Limback Lumber. So again, it's Husky friendly. It's Cougar friendly. It's also friendly for contractors and DIY people. So they got and they got free delivery too as well. All right.
Do you think Hugh actually worked there?
He did. I told you the story. He painted the side wall.
Are you? Okay.
That's what I told you. They want to meet you the next time you come up here because it's the Hunsinger family, and you know Mike. Mike is the.
I love Mike.
Mike is the longtime lawyer, for the University of Washington football team.
Yeah. No, he kept Huskies eligible that probably didn't deserve to be eligible, but he was good natured about it. I used to write about him all the time, and God, he just laughed his way through the interviews. He was terrific.
We got Rob Staton's going to join us here any moment. So, and because Rob and I, we recorded our
okay, Puck. Hey, Puck.
Puck.
Good evening, Puck.
Puck. I like the Seahawks. Puck. We recorded on Monday evenings or Monday afternoon just because of his schedule, and then we play it on Tuesday. But he, because of Monday Night Football, we couldn't. His schedule's all over the place, which I get. We're we got a 9-hour time difference here, or 8-hour. And he said, well, let's just do it live on Wednesday. It worked out well. And then you get to talk to him. You haven't talked to him since we left the radio. This is going to be great for you.
It will be great for me. I was reading Seahawks draft blog this morning and I just can't get over the number of things that he does. I mean, not only is he covering the Seahawks as well as anybody here in town, but then he covers the draft.
Oh, the draft.
And he talks about all the prospects for each year and, the best positions and what kind of draft it's going to be. And then I think his number one job is covering soccer over there. It's insane. I get tired just looking at his schedule.
Yeah, he hosts a sports radio show, basically. It's on the BBC that just covers European football. That's his real job. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Hey,
and he's got a family.
He does have a family. It's a beautiful family as well. I feel very old to have you look at this. Do you use readers? You don't have to use readers now.
What, glasses?
Look at that.
No. Oh, you have to use those now?
Yeah, especially at night. I can't.
Why don't you get one of those? One of those, laser vision endorsements like all the guys at KJR did.
Well, I want the one that Furness has got. That's the one I want.
Well,
I want the one that fixes the what is it, nearsightedness? Nearsight. I don't want to be able to wear readers anymore. What's that?
Okay, so your problem is you can't close up, you can't read things.
Correct. So whatever Ian got that. I want that. I want the surgery that takes away the readers.
Okay, you know how you give me shit about being old? That's one thing where I'm not old. My eyes are still good. I can read. The only time I really need glasses, only when it's raining, is at night when I'm driving.
Well, here's the deal, though. Like, this happened fast. Like, within 4 months. I went from perfect vision, like I read anything, to in 4 months, like I can't read anything. Like up close, I can't read anything. Fast. But it's worse at night than it is. Like, during the day, I don't need them.
Yeah. So you're surprised by that fast development?
I am surprised by it. Yeah. I mean, I read it. I like to put them on so I can read my daily newspaper.
Yeah. God, I miss getting the times.
Can I read you my favorite? Thing? I know Rob's waiting by. We're going to get to Rob.
Hey, by the way, speaking of the Seattle Times, congratulations to Tim Booth.
Tim Booth.
Going from Associated Press to the Seattle Times. Jeff Baker went to take a job with the Kraken.
You know what his real job is going to be, though, with the Seattle Times?
Is he going to cover the Sonics?
Yeah, that's his deal. He's basically the Sonics reporter. Without actually saying it, that's what he is.
Well, we'll see. But I'm happy for Tim.
That's literally what he is. His role is to cover the expansion, and then when they come, he's the guy. And he's going to help out with hockey. He's going to help out with the Mariners. He's going to help out with the Seahawks. But that's his primary goal, is to cover the Sonics return, and then he's the guy, which is just awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but again, I may be speaking out of turn. He might be a little bit more professional than you back in the day when you were covering the team. But
hey, you know what I'll say? Like, I always downplay myself and kind of ridicule myself, right? I covered the beat really well. I did.
You did.
And you can ask somebody back in the 90s, and I know you were 8 years old reading my shit back then, right?
No, I was 90s. I was, junior high.
Like 90 to 96, I covered the team.
Yeah, I was junior high.
Yeah,
in high school.
That was back in the days when I busted my ass. I did. I worked more than 40 hours a week.
Hey, Rob's waiting here. Can I just read you my favorite? Do you like the rant section of the newspaper?
Well, I know how much you love it. You like the rant and rave.
The rant today. I sent this to Mike Gastineau, who loves it as well. It's the end part that gets me. Rant to the gentleman driving in the Sandpoint Country Club neighborhood recently, who yelled at this senior lady trying to corral her lab who had gotten loose from his lead. Did you think I purposely let him loose to briefly block your travel? Because that is how you rudely put it to me. I know the rules. I live in the neighborhood too, but apparently the rudeness and disrespect were your go-to. I'm guessing that because you are of a certain age group, you feel entitled to treat people any way you want. Unfortunately, I see this in Seattle often. Entitlement. Rant to me and my disrespectful dog. Who would not listen? Isn't it kind of rich of some old lady who lives in the Sandpoint Country Club to lecture people about, check my notes, entitlement?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, my dogs are off the lead quite a bit, and they don't just break free because they don't have a lead to break free from.
Yeah, that's right. I loved it when I see this. I see this entitlement all the time. Right.
I mean, do these dogs look like they're a terror to the neighborhood to you?
Huh?
I mean, Sky's licking her crotch right now.
I know they're not. Yeah. They're great. But I just got a kick out of talking about entitlement. Someone who lives in the Sandpoint Country Club. I've been there. I know what it looks like.
It's pretty nice. They redid the golf course too, didn't they?
It. I'd like to go play it since you know who redid it, by the way.
David McClay Kidd.
Yeah, I don't know if it interests anybody. David McClay Kidd is the guy who did Bandon Dunes.
I was right about that.
You were correct. Let's want to talk a little football with Rob Staton?
Yeah, I do. I can't wait to see Rob.
Oh, it's been a while. It's been a while since you've seen Rob Staton. Rob Staton is brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. Superior Linen Service, committed to delivering the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today at suplinen.com. Give him a call, 253-2636. Stay up to date. Rob's insight. The man never sleeps, people. SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Video content, his YouTube channel, doing live video all the time. Thousands and thousands of views. Rob Staton Football. Follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. Rob, I'm going to box out. I'm going to leave. You two catch up. Look who's there, Rob. The beautiful Jim Moore. Jim, look at Rob.
Hi, Rob. I love you, Rob.
Jim, I've got a confession to make, and a confession to you and to Puck as well. I put 50 quid on Boise State to win at the weekend.
Screw you, Rob. Yeah, you know what? You and your research, you knew something about Ashton Genty that we kind of thought, well, maybe the Cougs will bottle him up a little bit, but you knew better, didn't you?
He's an unbelievable player, isn't he? He's been doing that to everybody. So, there was that game, and there was Colorado plus 14 against UCF, which just didn't look right. So I enjoyed my betting weekend. That was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, who do you like? Who do you like this week?
I haven't looked yet, but I have to say I was rooting for the Cougs. I've taken an interest, watching you guys every day. Has made me sort of lean towards wanting the Cougs to win. I was trying to get on board with that Heisman push you were making there. So what
are you talking about, Rob? You weren't rooting for the Cougs Saturday night when you had 50 quid on Boise State.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, thank you. I don't make many, as you know.
Well, hey, Jim, we glossed over this. Did you say 50 quid? What is that? What I don't. I'm not following there. Jim, do you follow with that?
Yeah, I know it's a British term.
Okay.
So you would say like $50, wouldn't you?
Yes.
So we would say 50 quid.
50 quid. Okay.
For 50 English pounds.
Don't sit there and act as if you knew that more. You didn't know that.
So what'd you do, Rob? Just go to the corner? I mean, you guys have like gambling shops everywhere over there, right?
Well, we do. They're everywhere, and I don't need to do that because there's online gambling over here. So
you can do it on you can do it on your phone.
Hey,
on my phone.
There's online gambling here too. It's illegal, and I just partake of it anyway, Rob.
There's a novel
not to be cuffed anytime soon.
So there's a novel concept. You can actually do it from your phone there. Wow, that would be fun to live in a place where you could do that.
Yeah.
Instead of having to go in a parking lot.
Jesus.
Yeah, but it's a bad thing though, because I did the same thing every week. Like right before the games kick off at 6 p.m. over here, the first slate of NFL games, I'm always tempted to just put on a last minute parlay or just have a look at what they're offering there. And there's all kind of options. And that's always the bets that don't come off. So I need to avoid a bit of that. That's the problem with having it in your phone, I think, in your hand.
Do you like Jim and I will do time to time? Do you partake in in-game betting?
No, I have some friends who will say like, "Oh, now would be a great time to get on Kansas City when they go 10 points down in a game because you'd expect them to come back." But I don't think I've ever done that. No, I don't think I've ever done it in game.
Jim, have you?
No, I've done it a few times. I think live betting is a mistake. You're chasing your money in the game, and then you can, double your losings by doing that. I haven't gotten into the betting on the props either. I mean, my kids are into betting on, they take after their dad a little bit. I'm kind of proud of it. But they do the player prop stuff all the time. Like the other night we're in Boise and it's still, it was bleak for the Cougs in the fourth quarter, but Mikey was sitting there going, God, if Chris Hudson could just anytime touchdown, Dad, anytime touchdown. And then Chris Hudson had come out with an injury and he was all bummed out. But it still gives you interest in a game, though, if your team is out of it like the Cougs were Saturday night.
I kind of enjoy in-game betting.
Do you? Oh, God, it kind of means you're sicker than normal.
Yeah, hey, Rob, over there across the pond, like for us over here, betting on the WNBA and spring training baseball is rock bottom. What's rock bottom over there?
Wow. I don't think we have anything quite at that level.
Okay.
So you can bet on like
how about
reality
cricket
TV over here. Like, well, cricket's a great one to bet on.
Cricket's huge.
It's huge over here. It's huge here, Australia and India. So it's quite a strong cricket bet in there. But all of our sports. All of our main sports are on there, but you can bet on stupid things like reality TV and stuff like that over here. So that's probably the lowest of the lot.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, how do you do it anyway? We were talking before you came on, like everything that you're doing with covering soccer over there, the Seahawks here, and then the draft on top of that. How do you find time to work everything in?
I have the best wife in the world, who is very, very patient and lets me indulge all of my obsessions. So whether that is, hey, I'm going to go to Germany and watch England play in the Euros final this weekend. Fine, have a great time. And then I'll just go off and do it. And then at this time of year, hey, I've got to write this 4,000-word article about Alabama against Georgia. And, she just says, you crack on and do that. So, but the good thing is that, some of this stuff pays for our holidays. So she gets that benefit out of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's Jim, wouldn't it be nice to have an understanding wife? Your thoughts?
God, she already yelled at me this morning for the way I put the blanket on the couch. Like, Jesus Christ, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. God, those are our problems. You should have talked to my first wife. I mean, we had legitimate problems in my first marriage.
So my wife works at home. I'm gonna whisper a little bit because she may or may not be on a call. So she works from home. She's out in the living room. If I go out there when she's on a call and just try to, like at lunchtime, just start to make a little lunch, I make any noise, I get up. What are you doing? I don't know. Getting lunch. You could go into the office.
Yeah, but how would you feel if she came in right now and disturbed you?
Yeah, but this is important.
Yeah. Okay. So, Rob, when was the last time you worked a 40-hour week?
Oh,
there's no 40-hour week. The guy, he's not working 40 hours. Come on.
No, I know. That's why I'm asking when the last time was that he actually worked one.
No, so I did my day job and then I'll come home, I'll walk the dogs, and it's pretty much straight into like the draft stuff after that, and then my weekends, if I'm working for the national radio on the NFL, then that will take up a few hours on Sunday. Otherwise, I just watch, Red Zone all the way through to the Seahawks, and then all the streaming stuff. So it pretty much takes up my life. And then during the summer, I have a social life, which is quite nice. But from August to April, it's pretty much day job and then other job, NFL draft stuff. So yeah, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Okay, let's get
Do you drink heavily to get through it? Does that help at all? Or
sometimes.
Not everybody copes the way you do. All right. No one wants to hear about his drinking habits, his hours that he works
I do.
or that he walks his dog.
I love Rob.
He's on here to talk about football, all right? I want to know, despite the loss, you encouraged by how they played. I came away from it, Rob, thinking of the Seahawks. I felt pretty good about them, even though that they lost the game.
Well, I came away from thinking, first of all, Ken Walker is a heck of a player. What a player. That was just an unbelievable rushing performance from him. And if he can stay healthy, he could have a chance to be the rushing leader this season, even despite the fact he's missed 2 games already. So what a player. I think that game puts to bed 2 of the things that have annoyed me most about what is often described, guys, as analytics Twitter, which is that running backs don't matter. When you see a performance like that, how can you say they don't matter? And the other one was that pass rush doesn't matter as much as your secondary these days. Well, clearly not having Leonard Williams, Boye Mafe, Byron Murphy, that Uchenna Nwosu had a massive impact on that game because the Seahawks just couldn't do anything on defense, and it undermined what was a tremendous performance from pretty much everybody on offense. So yeah, I didn't come away that disappointed and despondent. I kind of expected them to lose anyway, given all of the injuries. To see Geno Smith play the way that he did, Ken Walker, the offensive line held up for the most part. I think I came away from that thinking I'm really positive about Ryan Grubb on the offense, and I think this defense will be a lot better than that when players get back.
Yeah, I look at it, Rob. Like I'm with Puck. I was more encouraged than discouraged. I mean, what were you supposed to expect from that defense with so many injuries? And then you flip it around, and Geno Smith. I mean, I don't know where you were on Geno last year or the year before exactly, but now, I mean, can you make a case that he's top 10, maybe even top 5 among quarterbacks in the NFL now?
This is a strange year, though, isn't it? Because you can definitely make that case. I mean, he's played. I've not seen every quarterback play, but I'd be surprised if there are, let's say, 6 better performers at quarterback than him so far this year. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes has struggled for the most part, and the defense in Kansas City has won them their 4 games. So he's played exceptionally well. But isn't it weird that he's played as well as he has? And we can sit here and having seen the games and say he's been unbelievable. And yet his stats, like he's got 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. It feels like he should have 10 touchdowns and like 1 interception with the way that he's played. So it's a bit of a weird one with that. But he's played so well. I mean, like watching him, like every time he dropped back on Monday night, you had confidence he was going to deliver. And these were like difficult throws. They were not like dump-offs and yards after the catch. It was like thrown into layered areas, thrown into tight windows. And he was fantastic. It's just a shame that, on defense, David Montgomery had a 40-yard catch and run that with the players bouncing off him like it was back to the last season under Pete Carroll. You'd got Jared Goff catching a Philly special. And was it Travis Gibson who was in coverage there? I hope there was some banter going on this week about the fact that he could not catch up to Jared Goff, who I
like how he waved at his arm to try to block the pass. I mean, they didn't throw it in. They didn't throw it in completion in the entire game.
I know.
And then
And then the other one was when they put together a fantastic offensive drive that took time off the clock. It was brilliant. And you're thinking, right, here we go. The Seahawks are in the game. And then like one play later, Jameson Williams was just running downfield untouched for 70 yards. Like if the defense could have just done a little bit more and like avoided those back-breaking plays, then that would have been good. But look at the players they had out on defense. Like somebody I saw on Twitter, like Jeff Simmons, who I do some streams with, said it'd be like expecting the offense to play brilliantly without your starting quarterback. And that's kind of what I think the defense looked like.
I mean, because that was like the follow-up. Like, how much do you weigh their defensive performance because of the guys that they were missing? I mean, they still ended up, I mean, despite the guys that were out, I mean, there was three, the key guys are Mafe, Murphy, and then Leonard Williams. I mean, Love goes out in the game. I'm not going to put Baker up there in that category. That's just me. But I mean, they still gave up 42 points, and a quarterback did not throw an incompletion. So, I mean, how much do you weigh, that performance with the guys that were missing versus, maybe they're just, they for the first time faced an offense that was really, really good.
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult one that we're going to have to just see how they get on against the Niners a week on Thursday, and then see how they get on against the Bills, and then we'll have a better picture, because hopefully some of these players will be back. I worry a little bit on some of these. Mike McDonald's very vague. I mean, in fact, saying he's very vague is ridiculous. He just doesn't say anything about injuries.
Nothing.
Like, he just flat out says nothing. So you can't really take much of anything that he says about them. But it doesn't feel positive. Like, the vibes around, like, Byron Murphy's going to miss a few games, and Leonard Williams has got a rib injury and no one's talking about it. Like a rib injury. I think you had Garafolo on last week, Puck, and he said that's the kind of thing that could take a big man out for the whole season. Potentially. The fact that he was like running around or sort of joking at practice the other day made me think if it was that serious, he wouldn't be doing that. But if these guys miss a bit of time, then this could be a bit of an issue for the defense. And you do wonder, look, they've got $12 million to play with here. The trade deadline's, in a month's time. Do they have to go out and have a look what's out there? Do they have to go and fill in some gaps here? Because you'd hate, with the offense playing the way it is, you'd hate for the defense to be a big liability over the next few weeks and ruin what feels like a really good chance to have a go in the NFC West and, take on the Niners in an NFC year where the Eagles look like crap. There's the Cowboys look awful, and the Niners have been very good in two games and quite bad in two games, and the Minnesota Vikings are unbeaten with Sam Darnold. Like, it feels like anything could happen this year in the NFC. So will the Seahawks will they go and have a look and see what's out there to give themselves the best chance to have a great season this year? Because it feels like there's openings there for a number of teams.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Rob. You think they have a decent shot of playing in the NFC Championship game?
I'd probably be more confident of that if I'd have seen this collection of players win a playoff game, just one game. Like, until it's one of those, like, I need to see it happen. Like, if the Seahawks end up on the road in Detroit again, or Minnesota or San Francisco in the wild card, I'm not confident they would win that game. So I kind of feel the need to see them win a game like that to believe it. But if they can win the NFC West and any of those teams have to go to Seattle, then I would think they could win. I would feel belief in that. But I kind of have to see it first and who's healthy and stuff like that. Whereas I've seen the Niners win games. I've seen the Niners win playoff games last season. They should have lost two of the games, and they won them both, got to the Super Bowl. And we've seen other teams like Tampa Bay have won a playoff game against the Eagles last year. We've seen other teams do this. So kind of need to see the Seahawks do it first.
I don't think one of the dogs. I don't think one of the. Hold on. I don't think one of the dogs agrees with Jim. Yeah.
Entertaining that question.
Yeah.
I saw Puck's look on his face, like, God, that's laughable. No, you were laughing.
No.
I saw you.
That's not. I was laughing.
You were laughing.
I'm not laughing at the question.
What were you laughing at?
I'm laughing at because that was a gambling question. Because you're going to
put no. It wasn't a gambling question. It was for the greater good. It was for your audience.
You're going to put
because
money
honest
down.
to God, I look at the NFC and I'm going, well, you look at the Ravens the other night and you're going, oh shit, how are you going to beat them? But in the NFC, do you see a team the Seahawks can't beat?
I agree with you. I don't think there's no dominant teams in the NFC. And I agree with Rob. I mean, if they get healthy on defense, and God, who knows, maybe they make a move at the deadline. But as they continue to play under his system, You know, it's very intricate. There's a lot of audibles on defense. They're moving guys around. And with the way the offense is playing, yeah. I mean, I want to see what they look like against San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco still won't be at full strength, but yeah, I don't think that there's not right, Rob. There's not a runaway winner in this division or in league, I should say, or conference.
There isn't. I mean, I watched quite a lot of the Niners.
League, division, conference. I couldn't spit it out, for God's sakes.
I watched a lot of the Niners the other day, and they played the Patriots, who look bad. You know, they look a lot worse than they did when they played Seattle. But you watch Fred Warner playing like the way that he is. You know, he's got to be in the running through 4 games at least to be one of the contenders for defensive player of the season. And Brock Purdy is playing a lot better than he has, you know, and he played quite well previously, and he's playing even better this year. So you kind of look at that and you think, do you know what? They're going to be tough. They are going to be tough. And that's why I can't wait for a week tomorrow to see what, you know, it's game's coming up, isn't it? You know, to see what the Seahawks are going to do, because as I've said to you before, Puck, I flew all the way to Seattle for the game between the Seahawks and the Niners in Seattle on Thanksgiving last year. And it was horrendous. Like, it was just at halftime, I was thinking of going back to the hotel for an old fashioned because it was that bad. And, you know, I've traveled all that way to watch it and they just got destroyed. So I need to see the Seahawks play the Niners close, especially in Seattle. You know, give them a game, preferably win that one, if for no other reason, because I know a couple of San Francisco 49ers fans and they're quite irritating.
Hey, right tackle, how desperate do you have to be to bring in a 42-year-old guy again?
Yeah, pretty desperate. I mean, the league is having a massive problem with offensive linemen. And if you look at what's coming up in the draft, there are not going to be a lot of easy solutions there. So I think the whole league's going to be looking at this picture and thinking, you know, there's probably about 20 teams right now who've got a terrible offensive line. And Seattle have patched theirs together by bringing Tomlinson in and finding Connor Williams. And, okay, now that Stone Forsythe or Jason Peters is going to be the right tackle. Or will Peters play guard maybe, or compete with Bradford and Haynes and make that a 3-way battle? Who knows? It's a big problem. The Seahawks are never going to be the team that they could potentially be until they sort that offensive line out. They've sorted the defensive line out, and we've seen what it looks like without the top players on defense. They have got to sort their offensive line out. That is going to be priority 1, 2, and 3 in this offseason, is to get that offensive line fixed. But it is probably, short of finding an amazing franchise quarterback, it's probably the second hardest thing to do in the NFL.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt. There was a moment in the game, and I want to see what you think, and Jim, you volley in here too. The analytics, when to go for it, and when to go for 2. I thought that the decision to go for 2 was way too early. I understand the thinking behind it, totally get it. I mean, it makes sense when you start talking about it and looking ahead to the other scores, but 3 minutes to go, Rob, in the third quarter, why? What's the point of doing that at that moment in the game?
It's being a hipster. It's being football hipster. It's trendy. Hey, we'll go for 2 because then if we get the 2-point conversion, we'll be driving to take the lead next time. Just kick the extra point. You know, I was watching a game, we covered it over here on the radio, Dallas against Baltimore. And they went for 2. They were chasing the game. And they went for 2 very early and didn't get it. And everyone was like, why did they do that early? Oh, it's the analytics. And then they went for 2 again and didn't get it. And then they kicked the extra point. And it turned out that in the end, they had to get a touchdown rather than a field goal to tie the game. And you're thinking, if you'd have just kicked the extra points, like, it would have made your life easier. Like, it's overthinking it. I'm getting a bit bored of all this sort of analytics stuff in football. Like, especially if you're in field goal range early in a game, take a 3 points. You know, if you're the Eagles and you know a field goal will get you a 6-point lead against the Falcons, you know, the previous Monday Night Football, just do it. You know, make Kirk Cousins go 70 yards against your defense with one leg to beat you, as opposed to what ended up happening. Like, I just don't understand it. And I didn't like it. I didn't like the call that they had for the 2-point conversions either. It was like low percentage throws to the outside, 1v1 with DK Metcalf. I would have liked to see a bit more creativity there. Granted, DK, I think, actually scored a 2-point conversion. Then he
was in for sure. Oh, yeah.
But even so, I didn't like it. I didn't see the point of it. It annoyed me at the time, and it was 3:00 in the morning, so it was even more annoying.
Okay, a positive thing from the game. My favorite play was that throw to JSN, and then he threw it out to Charbonnet. 3rd and 16. They pick up 19 yards and get the first down. Are you kidding? The only time you ever see that play in football is at the end of the game when you're so desperate that you have to just be lateraling all over the field. And so, I mean, Ryan Grubb, I know the Seahawks are passing probably more than they want to, but that might be a reflection of Ken Walker being out, and maybe they'll get back into running it more. But I absolutely love that play because it caught everybody off guard.
What a play. And, that was one of my favorite plays, Jim. And how about the Ken Walker, like he was down, but he wasn't, and then he did like a little back flip on the floor? What was that? I've never seen anything like that before. Like, that is, I mean, he must be, one of the 10 best athletes in the NFL to be able to do something like that.
I mean, he did
a backflip.
Yeah.
It's not only that, but then it's the play that he scores on, right? When he starts left, he cuts back right against the grain, and it has enough speed to get around the edge. I mean, he's, it's the offense is 100% different with him in there, opposed to Zach Charbonnet. Thanks, Tips. I'm really glad we came here for that information. But I mean, he is just an absolute difference maker, and he's got to stay healthy. How about that today, Jim? Someone's going to leave today going, boy, these guys were talking about Ken Walker, and one of them, the guys, the portly one, said, hey, Ken Walker's a real big difference maker. Glad I tuned into this show. Jesus.
The portly one. The portly one. I like that. Hey, I've got, I know, Rob, do you have to get going, or can we hang out with Rob?
No. You got like 15 more minutes. You're good.
Okay, I got something else you can put 50 quid on this week. You ready?
Yeah.
Take the Giants and the points. And you're going, why would I take the Giants in 6 when the Seahawks are at home? The 12s will be there. Everybody be going crazy. Giants are no good. Danny Dimes sucks. All those different things. Neighbors might be out with a concussion. But here's what I'm telling you, Rob. All the way across the pond, it's a letdown spot for the Seahawks. I'm big on trap games and letdown spots. They just played the Lions on Monday Night Football. They're playing the 49ers on Thursday night next week. The Giants come to town. You expect to show up and beat them. Take the Giants in 6. Go with it, Rob.
Yeah,
with it, Rob.
You may well be right, Jim. I'm not feeling that great about this game because I think everybody's just expecting they're going to win. And, who is Leonard Williams and Boya Mafe and Byron Murphy and Jerome Baker? Are they all going to be back? Is Julian Love out now? Are they all going to be back? Because if they're not, that's a huge issue. And, I don't think it's a given that, the Giants have played poorly, but they have had a couple of games where it's been close. So I'm not dismissing that at all. And I don't know. Do you have a word for when you bet against your team? It's because if you win, you're happy, but if you lose but win the bet, it's like a little consolation prize.
Yeah, we call it the go-to guy. That's what he does.
Hey, Rob, I can't get him to bet on the Cougs, man. That's our team, and he won't even bet on our team.
Rob, who's your favorite team?
The Seahawks.
That trumps anything European football team.
Oh. Well, I'm English, so it's English the English national football.
The English national team. Do you bet on the English national team?
I have never bet on England. No.
There you go. Why?
Is it because you don't think they're going to win, or is it because you get too nervous and stressed out?
Yeah, I think it's probably a healthy dose of skepticism that England have never won anything in my lifetime, and also the fact that England. It's probably more important than life itself that England wins something before I pass. So I don't want to go anywhere near that.
So wait a minute. Hold on. England has routinely let you down every year?
Yes, I am 40 now.
Okay, so welcome to being a Coug and / Mariners fan. That's what it's like. But Rob, it's a double dose of it.
Yep, I can feel that pain. I feel the pain. Like there is some crossover between the Mariners and the English national football team. Both run appallingly and make terrible decisions all the time. So.
But at least you've got to. What did you get to? What was the championship game you just got to?
We got to the European final.
Yeah, at least you've
been
there.
Second consecutive time.
At least you've been there. This organization hasn't been in there. Hasn't even sniffed it. If Malik Neighbors, Jim brought it up, if Neighbors is out, who's just having an unbelievable season right now, if he is out for a concussion, how much does that change the Giants' offense?
Well, it does an incredible amount of damage to the Giants because they don't have Saquon Barkley anymore. Their running backs have been, I think, somewhat efficient, but not explosive. They don't really have anybody else on offense that you would be scared of. Defensively, they have basically Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and not a lot else. So, yeah, look, he is such a great player. Like he showed in that game he had a couple of weeks ago that he's an unbelievable talent. So if you don't have to deal with that, it's great. I can remember Odell Beckham when he was a rookie coming to Seattle and like having a breakout performance. So, avoiding any kind of repeat of that would be nice. So, I expect the Seahawks to win, but I think Jim makes a good point. It does feel like a dangerous game. And especially because, the difference between going into that Niners game at 4-1 and taking them on at 4-1 and feeling like, oh crap, it's now 3-2. And if they lose this game, it's back to 500. That feels like a big difference. Like imagine if the Seahawks won the next two games and 5-1 and how positive we will feel about them versus if it's 3-3. That does feel like quite a strong difference there.
Hey, Rob, I really appreciate the compliment. I think I've made 2 or 3 good points today. And do you think I'm wasting my time on this fledgling podcast and that I should maybe be
it's not a
ESPN
podcast when it's live
or the NFL Network, something like that? Like I'm kind of a bigger deal. I'm kind of lowering myself being on this just like you are. So you think I should, set the bar a little higher?
Well, Jim, I have to say, I listen every single time you're on. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it is the perfect complement to my nightly dog walk, or if I'm driving home from work at 6 p.m. my time. And I think it is a must listen every night. So I sincerely hope that you don't go off to join First Take or any of these other big shows. That you would be perfect. You would raise their level. Yeah. You would raise their level significantly.
Hey, Rob, I'm going to let
I can't see myself yelling like those guys. God, those guys are just yelling all the time.
I'm going to let you know a little secret that Rob, they're not going to be banging on his door.
Yeah, let's hire that guy
from
Seattle who's been fired twice. Yeah,
Rob, there's only one reason he wants to go work on First Take. Just tell him the reason why you want to go work on First Take.
I already know.
He likes fat Kimberly. No, he likes fat Kimberly Martin.
Kimberly Martin.
Yeah, the fat.
Who are you to call people fat, man? I mean, come on. What the hell? Kimberly Martin's hot, okay? And she does a good job. Is that all right that I like her?
Just good for you. I mean, I didn't know that was okay? It. Didn't know that was, it's a weird, we just didn't know that's what you were into.
Rob's speechless.
Oh, Rob wants to get off this thing as fast as he possibly can. That's what he wants to get off of. He just he didn't,
you know what, Rob didn't say anything about listening to your podcast Tuesdays and Thursdays when you're doing you're joining on with your monologue.
Trust me, it was duly noted. Duly noted.
Well, I'm on a Tuesday. I've heard it all, so it's fine.
Yeah, don't worry about duly noted. Hey, before you go, you wrote up at SeahawksDraftBlog.com just a whole recap of the college football weekend, guys that you were watching. Jalen Milroe, okay, that was the game. That was the game of the weekend. Probably going to be the game of the year. Alabama and Georgia. We've talked about him a bunch here. I like many people intrigued by him. There's always going to be the natural connections because of Kalen DeBoer and then Ryan Grubb and all of that. Can you envision him in a Seahawks uniform? Where, in your opinion, where is he at right now as an NFL prospect for the draft next year?
I think he's quite a long way off being in a place where you would feel comfortable starting him. Now, if you compare the Alabama-Georgia game last season, he was awful, as a passer. He was just basically a running back playing quarterback. So when you actually watch this game at the weekend, he is throwing in a better way. I think the scheme and DeBoer's scheme is very good, and it creates a lot of opportunities for him, and it doesn't require any real processing in the pocket. He's not being asked to do a lot technically in the pocket to distribute the football. He is basically being told, here's your read, and if it's not there, take off and run. And he is such a good athlete that taking off and running is more often than not, a fantastic idea for him. And we saw that in the first half. Georgia didn't defend the perimeter. It's like they'd never seen him play. They kept letting him sort of break off these big runs to the outside. And then in the second half, they took that away. He was then asked to throw a bit more in the pocket, and it didn't work out. They were poor on third downs. They were poor on third downs against USF as well a couple of weeks before that. So I don't think he's I heard Mel Kiper saying he's in the contention to be QB1, and people are now talking about in the first round. I'm not buying any of that. For me, he reminds me of a better version of Malik Willis, who went in the third round. I think at the moment, he's a day 2 pick who's a great athlete, great physical potential, but there are just other players like Quinn Ewers and Shadur Sanders and Garrett Nussmeier who are just doing so much more from the pocket than he has to do.
And then Rob, can I follow up just with a quick one? Cam Ward. I mean, you mentioned Cam Ward. You saying no as a possible day 2 guy, and then some people are thinking number 1 overall, and there's so many mixed feelings about Cam Ward. And you've got him going day 2. And I was like, yeah, I could see that. But they always overdraft quarterbacks in the NFL. But you're not real high on Ward, are you?
No, and look, they do overdraft. Bo Nix was overdrafted and things like that. But, a couple of years ago, you had a whole bunch of quarterbacks people expected to go in the first round, and they went in the third. And I think Cam, you guys don't need me to tell you about Cam Ward. You know what Cam Ward is. He starts every season on fire. He looks great. He makes a load of creative plays, and then the schedule gets a bit tougher. Things, he then feels like he's got to force things a little bit more, and that's when the mistakes happen. And against Virginia Tech, that's what was happening. He had some horrible decisions, some horrible throws, some bad interceptions, a number of turnovers. But, Virginia Tech allowed Miami to get away with it, and in the end, he drove downfield a couple of times, and he won them the game. So he's played better than I expected than he would for Mario Cristobal, who's not a very good coach down in Miami. And their schedule's not very good, so he might not face many difficult tests. But I think when they play difficult opponents, we'll see the Cam Ward that we saw at Washington State. And I think he is more of a mid-round pick than a top pick. And I saw him live last year, and I didn't ever feel like I was watching, like a first rounder. So I'm not buying all this talk of him like being a top 10 pick and a first round pick.
Rob Staton, brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. Superior Linen Service, committed to delivering the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today at suplinen.com. Give them a call, 253-383-2636. Stay up to date with Rob's work, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, with the 2 storylines with Ward and also with Milroe we just talked about. Video content, great YouTube page, great channel, Rob Staton Football, and follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. And in case you came in late, just missed this, I'll be up on YouTube, later on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and of course, up at PuckSports.com. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for putting up with Jim.
Thanks, guys. Jim, great to see you. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah, you too, Rob. Take care.
Okay, Rob Staton. Do you want to stick around?
Not really.
Oh, you don't? Well, I got Divish coming on next. He'd love to probably talk to
you. Oh, do you? Oh, okay, sure. Hey, you know what I love? One of those English words that he had, and he said it twice. Did you catch that?
I did not.
Schedule.
Oh, schedule.
Yeah, it's not schedule.
Yeah.
Schedule. Yeah.
Ryan Divish is with us now as we transition to a little baseball. It's brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They have been family-owned and operated for over 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. Check them out at chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation and experience the best in local fun. Jim, you can stay on here and wrap up the season with Divish.
Yeah, how are you doing, Ryan? Where are you?
I'm good. Are you in a storage unit?
I'm in the garage, and I made sure that I backed up my my little table here to get it out of the sun, because there was one time when I had the laptop in the sun and it malfunctioned. And then Puck, had a shit fit like he always does. Does he get mad at you too, or are you a big deal and he does, he's more tolerant?
No, I mean, he gets mad at me because I use my phone, do it in my car, then my phone overheats, and I do it from the Y. There's screaming kids everywhere. Because I never remember that I have to do this, even though we do it every Wednesday at the same time.
Well, it's not important enough to you.
Well, no,
I can see why.
I have rampaging ADD, and then you couple that with drinking and, you know, staying up late, and then, you know, any of the other stimulants that I miss chewing so much. Oh God, I was thinking about that. You know, you get back in Montana, everybody's got dips, and I miss chewing so much. No, I don't know. I get in trouble too because I'm irresponsible, but I mean, that's pretty much everybody in my life finds that. Like my buddy Brian, I sent him a text one time about doing something. He goes, "This is unbelievably like organized and responsible for you." And I said, "Yeah, Cindy did it. I didn't do it. I don't do these things. I am just wandering through life lost most of these days."
To be fair, I send you reminders most every the day before.
Yeah, but like, do I acknowledge the reminders?
Most of the times, no.
No.
Well, and are you doing this without AirPods, or do you have something in there?
I have headphones in.
You got them. God,
no, he's professional.
He gets upset when I don't have the AirPods. Like I did the old Crimson podcast yesterday without AirPods. I thought it went well, but apparently not.
No, it doesn't go well. Like my AirPods, I have the Pros, and so the noise canceling thing in them screws with it a little bit. So these are actually the headphones that I have for my Roku that I use when I'm at home, and I'll when my girlfriend's sleeping and I want to watch TV till 2 a.m, I put the headphones in so I can watch TV because we're like 10 minutes away from being in separate rooms at this point.
Oh, well, Jim's been in separate rooms for how many years now, Jim? Or separate rooms?
22. But
22.
How is she still your girlfriend? How have you not screwed that up yet?
I don't know. If I don't make her my fiance here pretty soon, she won't be my girlfriend much longer, though, I think.
Put a ring on it.
I
Like
will.
Beyonce said.
I will. You know, I was waiting to do a stadium scoreboard proposal, you know, during the playoffs, but since they didn't make the playoffs, I didn't have to worry about that.
Are you going to get married at T-Mobile?
Yeah, I was going to have Julio do the thing, you know, do you, Ryan, take Cindy to.
I think that'd be really good.
Yeah, and then like we'll be doing it, and like one of the players, but I'm trying to take BP here, you know, like can you get off the field for 5 minutes?
I'm in. I think you should do it.
I promise my nieces I would do a destination wedding, like on a beach somewhere. So that's what we're gonna do.
I want to know how much time before the impromptu press conference from Jerry DiPoto did you guys find out that he was going to do it?
Like that he was actually going to do it? Like it was Jerry, maybe 15 minutes. So like, but we knew, so we had asked a while ago, hey, are you going to do an end of the season thing? And they said, well, it would depend on whether like how the season ends. And because like in the past years, the season would go to like the final day or so. And so they didn't want to talk about it until after the season was officially over. But with them being eliminated on that Thursday, I was told, hey, look, we probably won't do anything super, super formal, but we may get one of the front office guys to come down and talk during the series. Cause that's what we did before, you know, many, many years, when they were eliminated early, we would just grab the GM in the dugout day, like the second and last day or last day. That way, just because none of us wanted to have to go back there another day, you know, and deal with that. And honestly, like, not to be a dick, but like, I have shit I'm trying to get done for my off season, like, you know, reporting stuff. I'm not there to like grandstand and ask questions about shit they're never going to answer or they can't answer. So like I need that time for me to like ask questions about payroll, surgeries, contract status, that kind of stuff. Not whether, you know, like somebody said to me, well, you need to ask why Jerry DiPoto thinks he's the man to do this job. I mean, like, really? I'm not fucking Tucker Carlson. All right. Like, I'm not doing that shit. It's not about me. I don't post pictures about me taking flights and telling people how hard my job is. Like the specific purpose when I talk to these guys is asking a question to get an answer that I can use in my story. And like, I'm not going to grandstand about this. Like, do I think that do I think that there's a lack of accountability from the top down? Yeah, of course, because they're not going out and talking about it. And, I mean, like if you see the story we ran, me and Jude wrote, those were quotes from June because, we're not in the best graces of the front office right now. Adam and I aren't. So I didn't care. Like, I know you guys found it kind of off-putting, but like, for me, I'm there every single day. So I got shit I got to do. These other people that show up to make a big show of it, that's fine, do it. But like, I didn't need it. So I wasn't that upset, but I was also there. And we asked what we needed to ask. We asked about the payroll, and I asked, kind of the more direct questions that are answerable, like the questions about accountability and such. Like, to me, they need to take that upon themselves a little bit. Is it fair that, like, for how many months Scott Service had to answer for a roster that he absolutely loathed and didn't, and had to answer for certain things? No, probably not, because he doesn't have any control over it, but that's the job. And like, is it fair that the players, we sit there and ask them all the time, hey man, you're in a real bad slump and this and that. And, Daniel and Adam asked JP Crawford about, the 4 strikeout game or whatever it was, where he stranded a small village of runners, and JP has to answer it. And then other guys aren't out there like answering for their mistakes. But at the same time, like, I'm not looking for self-immolation from these people, like, because, and then also it's kind of like the believability factor. Like, regardless of what Jerry says, or even John Stanton says, if they come out in a presser, nobody's going to believe it. Like, there's a segment of fans that just simply aren't going to believe it. Segment of media that probably isn't going to believe it. So it's like, all it is just one big circle jerk then. Like, what are we doing? If nobody believes it, nobody feels like they're telling the truth, and we don't even know for certain what they're going to do, then what's the purpose of it other than like grandstanding? So either, like for me, if the Mariners really, and I had some tough conversations with people in the Mariners, and I just said, like, if you don't like what we're writing, or you don't like the tone of everything, I go, shut up and win. I mean, that's pretty much it. If you want to shut people up, win. But the problem is they don't do enough to win, to shut people up. And that's the whole circle of it all.
Yeah. I mean, I was a reporter once upon a time, and I understand where you're going with that. I mean, you're there every day. There's only so many different things that you can ask in certain ways. And I didn't really have a good touch with that. I mean, I just, kind of popped off sometimes, and it didn't do me any favors to do that. So I understand where you're coming from. But what you said, though, Ryan, was interesting. I mean, maybe off the record, did you actually hear that Service thought, Jesus, I can't believe I have to deal with these players, but it's the hand I'm dealt, and I'm just going to have to deal with it. And publicly, I'm just going to not throw them under the bus?
Well, he said it in the offseason. He said, we have to play the hand we're dealt. They wanted real dudes. They didn't want to have to, like, I mean, why do you think he went and talked to all these guys about the roster turnover that they were having? Like, he knew that getting rid of Gino was going to be unpopular and was going to hurt the clubhouse. And he was hoping that, like, veteran leadership would come from other guys, that Haniger could do it, or Polanco. But Haniger didn't play enough to be a leader, and he's never been that outspoken. And Polanco was super quiet, didn't play well enough. So, yeah, I don't think the thing is Scott, I think, was a realist in a lot of ways. It didn't matter, like, if he would go to Jerry and say, hey, I don't like this direction, or we need to do this. They're going to do what they're going to do. And he had to adjust and adapt to it. And I think that's the thing. Like, he had to answer every day to all this. And a lot of the times, I don't necessarily think it was kind of how he wanted to play or what he wanted to play, but the roster and the setup kind of necessitated that in a lot of ways. Yeah, like, no, I mean, like, I get why everybody's, like, pissed. And I get, like, in a way, it's like you're looking for the next 54% soundbite or whatever. And you want them to come up there and stand up there and say, yeah, we screwed up, we failed, we're going to do better. But at the same point, like, I don't know that anybody believes them, at least a large segment of the fan base, is going to believe that they say it. But they're going to say, shut up and show me. So I understand, I guess, from the Mariners standpoint, like, if you're looking at it from a purely PR standpoint, putting those guys out there does the organization no good. And, like, by doing what they did, and then having, like, you and Ian and some of the radio guys or Levine get mad about it, yeah, it lasts for a day or two and then everybody moves on. But sound bites live on forever. 54% in memes live on forever. And then, like if you're a PR person, if you're the Puckett PR crisis firm, you're telling them, no, don't do that.
100%. I mean, 100%. Like if I were advising them, I would advise them to do, honestly, if you want to protect them, to do exactly what they did. Just hide and do what they did. But the problem with it is, and I understand where you're coming from, but these organizations are public trusts. They are owned by the public. And when you hide in the shadows like they do, when you hold a press conference 15 minutes before and tell people, then you want to hide. And I do believe, and this is where we'll disagree, I do believe John Stanton owes it to the people that support him to answer one question: why is he coming back? Why? And hear it from him. And if he's afraid to give that answer, then he's not the right choice. Now, on the flip side of it, he's not well-spoken. He puts his foot in his mouth just like Jerry DiPoto does. So I get why they don't want to do it. I just think the biggest issue with these guys is this cloud of secrecy that they're in. I was having a conversation with a buddy last night at the Inter Bay Eagles. There you go. Thanks, Jim. Football practice. He was like, yeah, I ran into Chris Larson. And I'm like, he's so unassuming. You would never know this guy's the owner of the team the way that he looks
like a high school chemistry teacher.
Yeah, and I just think no one knows who they are. They're not accountable. They're not present. I mean, hell, even Jerry Reinsdorf put a letter out to his fan base to say this year was unacceptable. That's all you got to do. But
I mean, like it is, and I honestly. Like, because we'd heard, we asked, and to me, like, even if they had not brought out Jerry or somebody, I mean, like, I have a good enough relationship with Justin Hollander where I felt like I could call him and get some stuff that I needed for the offseason just on planning purposes or, background stuff. Hey, they're going to do this, that, or, is so-and-so like with Brash, what is, you got any updates on his timetable? And I honestly thought that's who would talk to us. But Jerry came out and, and it wasn't necessarily combative, but I think that's the first time I had talked to Jerry in person. Well, I talked to him once in Oakland, and I just asked him a question about Troy Taylor because they had drafted him 2 years in a row, and he didn't. I don't think he really wanted to talk to me, but it was like hey, I'm just looking for clarification on Taylor. Was it a draft in fall or whatever? But I hadn't talked to him much. I mean. He's been kind of absent in that way. We've talked to Hollander a lot because I think they know that there's a divisiveness when it comes out in the fan base. But yeah, I don't have a problem with Stanton coming out and say it. Look at John Middleton of the Phillies. He's come out and been very vocal. Steve Cohen, and they come out with messages. But the one thing is like, can't send them out with a message or even an accountability thing if you don't have a solution or an answer. I think that's the biggest thing that I have right now too. And we asked, like when we talked to John in June, I kind of just said, hey, we still need to talk to you after the season, maybe about what's going to happen with Root. And like, they were very honest. So we don't know what's going to happen. We have one plan where they do the same thing they did this year, run it again, they pay for the production values. They had another plan that involved the MLB handling the production side. And then I think there was a third plan if like an alternative third party like Amazon or somebody wanted to jump into the fray. And I still think that's on the table. So it is difficult. Like as a fan, I understand why fans are mad, but at the same time, I don't know that anything they say is going to change it because maybe it should have been said last year after that season or, more of an explanation, even like when we had to hear all about payroll flexibility and things of that nature last year, it was, a lot of it afterward, it was through sourcing, it's us hearing it off the record conversations and then getting it confirmed. But like John Stanton never came out and just said, hey, look, due to the uncertainties of Root Sports and our investment in it, we are going to run a payroll similar to last year because we don't know what the revenue stream will be like or whatever. Never said that. Never even. I mean, even issuing a statement would be better than just acting like it's not there. Sometimes, and I remember this happened with Baker. Remember when Baker got Eric Wedge and Tony Bongino to basically kill their baseball careers by coming out and talking bad about the team? The Times, because that's right when I got hired. So I get hired and hear about this. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to have to walk through this burnt land with, and the Mariners, the Times went to the Mariners and said, here's what we have. Here's what we're going to essentially write, and we're looking for a comment. And the Mariners ownership didn't want to comment to any of it. They just didn't want to. And it's like, and then in the end, you're thinking maybe they should have. It's the same with like the Dipoto thing. We knew, within the days of Dan being or Scott being fired, I had, multiple sources, MLB sources telling me, hey, they gave Dipoto an extension before they did this. That's why they were able to do this. And that's why they're, because like the thinking is if you fire a GM or a president, you want to have a month or two to vet, to self-scout the organization, run what you want to run, see who you want to keep. And so we had people telling us that, and then when we finally knew that it was confirmed, we went to the Mariners and said, hey, look, we have this. We know we have it. Do you guys want to comment? And they didn't want to comment. And that's fine.
And still haven't commented on it. They still haven't confirmed that he's coming back.
Yeah, I mean.
Nothing publicly.
I think there'll be another story, not from us. They'll have a confirmation on it. But it's, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to tell them how to run their shop, but I am going to say, a lot of times I'm stuck in the middle between fans and this organization, and it's difficult to understand that. And I'm stuck in between. I have a lot of friends that work in this organization that they want this team to win everything else, but and it's not just on the baseball upside. I got friends that work on the business side. I got friends that work, front office, everything else. And I in one of my rather heated conversations, I just said that the environment at that stadium for the last 3 or 4 months going there has just been miserable, and it's seeped into the media and the anxiety and just kind of the there's just a tension there every day that you would go there and everybody could feel it. And then as media, we didn't create it. We don't want any part of it, but we could still feel it. It seeped into what we were. It's I've loved going to that park, and doing my job. And this year it was just and it's weird because they're the nicest group of guys I've ever covered. And when Scott was there, and even Dan, Dan is super friendly. And when Scott was there, he'd gotten so much better about talking pregame and postgame. It was easy to write about and cover, but everything surrounding the team, the losing, the fans, the stuff from last year and stuff, we couldn't write a bunch of the fun stories we had, I'd done some interviews on Saucedo and from his high school coaches and talking about what he was like. And he talked to me about warning kids, don't be like me, to actually go to class, all this stuff. Couldn't write any of that because nobody wanted to hear anything positive about the team when they were free falling. And it's just this was one of the probably tougher years I've ever had to cover. I mean, the first year I ever covered the team traveling wise, full time in 08 when I had to travel and everything, that was when they lost 100 games and they had Eric Bedard, Richie Sexton, Jeremy Reed, Jared Washburn, Willie Bloomquist. You want to talk about a bunch of angry people in September, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. None of us wanted to go back. We were happy they didn't do that because none of us wanted to go back there. It was just a tough season to be around. And it wasn't, it should have been more enjoyable to cover than it is. I mean, look at Cal Raleigh and how honest he is, and Luke Raley. And when they brought in Justin Turner, it's great to talk to. And it just was nobody wants to hear anything positive about it. They just want to know, how's it going to get better? How's it going to get fixed?
When you real quick follow up, when you guys did the interview in June with Stanton, he gave you a quote that you didn't release back then, but you released this week. And the quote was talking about free agency and resources. And he said, quote, Stanton, we've got the resources to be able to do the things we need to put a good team on the field. We've never been focused on free agent bats. Those kind of big dollar free agent bats as a matter of strategy, not because of anything to do with resources. When he said that to you, how could you There's not a criticism. I'm just saying, did you realize at the time he said that, my God, when we publish this, how bad this is going to look for him?
Yeah, and the way he made it, like I'd have to go back and listen to it again, but like I think we even kind of pushed back and was like, and then and kind of said, well, and I mean he was kind of like, I think he was talking about the 30 plus, and then guys over 30 more.
Mm-hmm.
And because that was just the conversation a little bit, and then like their free agent bats, like the free agent bats we're talking about the Sotos and the big boy contracts. I mean, they gave $24 million to Mitch Garver. Maybe they feel like they were burned by that. Like people, and Adam wrote a lot of that story. I wrote some of it, and people they were mad about Adam used the scars of the Robinson Cano contract. And like, yeah, Robinson Cano is a really productive player for the first 4 years, or first 5 years, I think, of the contract. And he paid, but like how it ended and how it went so far south and like what it led to, that I think it made him gun shy. And yes, and I mean, I never thought they would have been able to trade him, but they paid on that contract for a while too. And they gave up Diaz. I mean, I think part of the uncertainty surrounding Cano's future with the PED suspension and everything else, and then looking at the rest of the team and how aging were, that's why they decided to go into that step back or rebuild, because they just didn't think that he was going to be a reliable player moving forward and to build around the rest of it. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, because I just kind of thought like they were never going to play in that it's not just the philosophy, it was just the will and the resistance to spending that much money on a player. I just never saw them as somebody that's going out there and going to give 30 to 35 million to a player that they don't know. I mean, because like the thing is it's not just the yearly, it's the every year. Like if you're giving Soto 500 million, that's over an extended period of time. And I just don't think they have the stomach to make that sort of investment because of being somewhat risk averse in their spending. I mean, we've said it before. I think that's a really good way to look at some of the things they do, as being risk averse with their thing. Because like everybody said, well, they gave Julio all this money. Well, did they? I mean, there are a lot of stipulations in there where by the end, if they bounce out of that, they've only given him like 175 million. If that they don't exercise the options, or the options don't vest and all that stuff, it might not be as much. But they also recognize the value that Julio had to their franchise from a marketing and business standpoint. And I think they also knew that every year that he got better, because like if they try to do that same deal the very next year, it's going to be even more expensive than it was the first year.
Hey, Ryan, when you talk about tension surrounding the team, how much of that just had to do with the free fall, the losing, and how much of it had to do with Jerry Dipoto himself? Because we always hear these stories. I mean, whether they're right or wrong, the perception's out there that Jerry's not really a likable guy. And I just wonder, forget about the 8 years out of 9 where you didn't make the playoffs. And so that's a good case to not bring it back anyway. But like the future with Jerry Dipoto, I mean, the word gets out, doesn't it? With agents, with other teams, with other players. Like you already have to fight the fact that if you're a position player, do you really want to hit in that ballpark? Do you want to travel that far to Seattle? And then you got a general manager that's not well liked. My assumption is the players probably don't care for Jerry Dipoto much. And I just wonder if that's the word out in baseball circles too.
Yeah, I mean, baseball is a small community with a lot of people, and they talk a lot. And the thing is like, if you look back, there's been a lot of turnover within the front office, the coaching staff, things like that. Some of it, even or like the front office, like ops side or whatever. And some of it was COVID related, and some of it was decision related, and everything else. And right or wrong, as Jerry's the leader of it, they associate him with that. So, there is a section of people in baseball that want to see him fail because they were fired by him, or they fired his friends, or, those kinds of things, or, he got angry at them or something like that. There is a group of that. And I've had some agents say, I just don't like the culture there. Don't like how it works. don't like the field. But some of that changes, we might consider it, but we're not going there unless they pay a lot, things like that. I'm like, okay, and Jerry's very hard line in his negotiations and how he does stuff. He has a belief in how they want to negotiate all these kinds of things. They have numbers in their mind that are set, probably largely because of the budgets they're constrained to. So in that regard, yeah, there's definitely, there's definitely some dislike out there. You hear it from agents, from certain agents of players that are played for the Mariners, that still play for the Mariners. It's funny though. You never hear it all the time right in the moment though. Like with Winker, I heard a couple agents say good luck right away, and then when I said a few things about him on the radio once, then I had other agents call and say, yeah, our players hated him too, and this and that. I'm like, oh my God, this is a zoo. But yeah, I think there is that. I mean, I think the tension partially was because of what was said. So that's the thing, is like that 54% thing, as much as I understand it, as much as like I get the logic behind it in a lot of ways, fans aren't, and they don't understand, because like you're asking fans to take a nuanced and patient look at this process, and they don't want that, and when it was said at the time and in the tone it was said in, and kind of the lack of an apology in the days that followed, I mean, like, it's never went away. It will follow him. It will follow him forever. He's not walking it back unless they win a World Series. Not walking it back. I might add that if they had won 54% of the games, they would have won the division and gotten the playoffs. But it's there. So you have that hanging out over it. He's not talking really. He wasn't visible. He's not talking. He's the ultimate decision maker on the baseball side. He's not out there compared to what it was last year. Service doesn't have a contract going into next year, essentially. Like, everybody's kind of playing for their jobs, it feels like. And then they get off hot, and then all of a sudden it all falls apart. And you could see it coming, and you could see all these guys not performing, and everybody's looking around. And it was just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's some tension with Jerry. I mean, I don't, but does anybody really like their boss, Jim? It sounds like you've never liked any of your bosses. I can't imagine why.
Well, I don't like people who fire me. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well,
but no, I've had several, Ryan, I've had several sports editors, most of them that I really liked. I mean, there was one that was a dick and he deserved to be disliked. But for the most part, when I was a newspaper guy, I loved all the sports editors I worked for. But yeah, people who fire me, I think, I don't think highly of them.
But like the thing is like, yeah, I just, if it's a tough environment or whatever, sometimes it's not enjoyable. I think there could be some of that. I mean, like, I don't know all the intricate details. Like, I read Danny's column, who one of the Mariners employees asked if I ghost wrote it for him. I was like, no, he's a way better writer than me. But like, I didn't know about that survey thing that he was upset about. I'd heard some of the other stuff, and I do think some of the players feel like there's an aloofness to him and a distance. But I think that's part of what he wants to keep that, because he wants to be able to trade them or move them or cut them without having the emotional pull. I mean, there are some GMs that are like that, and they have assistant GMs that are kind of the nicer guys. Like Hollander is much more talkative with players than Jerry might be. But I mean, like, it was interesting when I was on the last road trip I was on, which is Oakland and Anaheim. Jerry was there, and he was very active in talking with players on the field and such. But again, at that point, they'd fired the manager. He's coming back. There's probably a lot unknown. So he probably had to talk to some players and kind of gauge what they're feeling and what they want, what they're expecting. So,
all right, we got to wrap it up. There he is, Ryan Divish. His weekly appearance brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941, located in historic Proctor District of Tacoma. Big thanks to Reggie Frederick and his family for bringing you Ryan Divish throughout the baseball season. And you know what? We're going to give him a little time off, but he's going to be back. He's going to be back in the offseason. He gets bored. He's going to miss doing this, so he'll be back. So don't worry.
We didn't even talk really about the offseason plans. We just talked about the drama and the press conference.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to give you a little time off. Then we're going to talk offseason, and we're going to talk about
You can call
Hey,
me every
what's the
Wednesday.
over/under on the proposal date? That's more important.
Yeah,
to
we
me.
want to know that.
I don't know. I'll do something cliche, New Year's Eve or I told Daniel Kramer I was going to do it at his wedding reception just to be it.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah. Trump that one. That would be good. That'd be good for
Okay,
everybody
down on
involved.
one knee and then call the dad to ask for permission to marry his daughter. All of it.
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask the kids' permission too. So it's like, oh, Jim, you saw the puppy, didn't you? I got my parents. We got my parents a yellow lab puppy.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to send it. I'll post some. He's at that teething point now, so my thumbs have holes all over them from him biting things. But
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
There's one of my dogs, Ryan. See him out there?
I thought you had.
No.
I thought you were.
See
where's the freezer? Where's the freezer that you keep the human heads in?
Yeah, it's in there. It's in there someplace. All right. You can find it on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Of course, PuckSports.com. Divish, we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, call me next week. I'll do this again next week.
Well, there we go. See, off-season Divish is the best. See you, Div.
Yeah, see you.
See you, Ryan.
All right, there is. See, you got a full Ryan Divish.
That was fun.
That was a full show for you.
Love Divish.
Too much Jim Moore today.
You know why we like Divish? Well, I mean, for me, you're about the same age as him, but he reminds me of a younger me.
Yeah.
I mean, he talks about being irresponsible, but he's really not. I feel like I'm irresponsible too, but I'm, sort of not.
Yeah.
But no, I love the guy. He just, he doesn't have time for a bunch of bullshit.
He doesn't. I'm glad you were able to stay on and talk to him. So we'll cut you loose. We're going to talk to you again on Friday. Get your gambling picks and all your betting picks for the weekend ready on Friday. And, of course, voicemails on the PuckSports.com website. Leave a voicemail. We need voicemails for Friday to entertain myself and Jim Moore. Go to the website. You'll see the phone number there. Voicemail Friday. It's coming back to you, all right?
Okay, Puck. Take care, man. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. See you, buddy. There he is, Jim Moore. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with us as he joins us on those days. And he'll be back again on Friday. And hopefully voicemails. And again, PuckSports.com. Go there. And the phone number is up there. And you can leave us a voicemail. And we play the best ones coming up on Friday. Let's transition and talk a little football. We'll talk Seahawks. We'll talk NFL. We're going to talk a little fantasy football with Danny Kelly. Danny B. Kelly on Twitter, senior staff writer of the Ringer Fantasy Football, plus the Ringer NFL Draft Show. It's all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated. Manny's, Rogers, Lucille. They got everything. Tap room open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they got something coming real soon. A real surprise for you. 7 days a week. Visit them at georgetownbeer.com. Danny Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing?
Oh, just, living the dream. We're closer to the weekend. I just want to get to Friday and get to Saturday and just be done with everything. All right, let's jump right into this. Where's Davante Adams going to go?
Oh, excellent question. The Jets, probably, I guess. What do you think?
The Jets. Well, I like how he's like, I want to be traded. Okay, you want to be traded. Where do you want to go? Where my friends are.
The Jets are the Saints. The quarterbacks that I've played with before,
That's
I think.
like the only two teams. It's like when Griffey wanted to be traded from the Mariners. Where do you want to be traded? Well, the Reds. That's it. Just the Reds.
The hometown. Yeah.
Do you think it happens? Do you think Adams gets moved to either the Jets or the Saints?
Yeah, I do. At this point, the Raiders are not competitive. They're probably pretty motivated to, try and pick up a pick. I think they put out they want a second rounder. They'll probably get like a third or, something and change. But yeah, there's no real point for them to hang on to him at this point. I think it's just, it feels like a foregone conclusion. The wording on these things always is funny to me. He said he prefers to be traded.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. But yeah, it feels like his relationship with Antonio Pierce has not gone well. And so,
why when Antonio Pierce made the comments the other day, or it was last week, where we had guys make some business decisions.
Yeah.
What was it? Is he talking? It feels like now he's talking to Davante Adams then.
Yeah, that was the impression. And then of course Davante Adams made an actual business decision and decided to hurt his hamstring or pretend that his hamstring is hurt. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be funny too if they trade him. He's just immediately healed. this hamstring injury that he's going through that is apparently going to keep him out several weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know. From his point, from Devontae Adams' point of view, I can understand why he'd be kind of annoyed at the organization and wanting to, go to a team that's going to contend, have a little bit different, trajectory. So, yeah, I do think it gets done. I think it gets done. There's enough interest in him. He's still playing well enough that it probably will get done.
The team that immediately just came to mind, just because they could use. I mean, it's not like they don't have weapons, but they could, in a strange way, could use a weapon like him. I mean, every team could use Devontae Adams.
Right.
Kansas City.
I know, right? Yeah. Interdivision rivals. I don't know. I don't see the Raiders doing that, even though they probably should. They're probably delusional enough to believe that they can compete with the Chiefs in the short term. But this is a rebuilding team. This is a team that needs picks and to build for the future. So they probably should trade with the Chiefs, but I don't see them doing that.
Okay,
I would love to see him play for the Chiefs, though. That'd be
so
fun.
your bet is who? Your bet is if you weigh the two, the Jets or the Saints, you're going to put money. You're going to make a bet. I don't know if you're a betting man, Danny. You look like you could be. You're putting money on who?
Probably the Jets. I think the Jets have the feel of one last job. You know what I mean? Like it's a bunch of old guys getting together to do one last job. They need to just before they set get that job done. Because if you look at like the people they signed this offseason, Mike Williams, Tyron Smith, they traded for Morgan Moses. There's a bunch of, I guess, guys towards the end of the career. They just, this is a team that really needs to compete this year. Joe Douglas, I think, his backup is up against the wall. And when you have a front office and head coach like that, you get a little bit desperate. So I could see them probably pushing the envelope the most and giving up the most for this.
Yeah, the Jets were a lot of people's pick in the beginning of the season. And you look at the Jets, it just looks like a dumpster fire right now. And you know what we're on the cusp of happening, and it's going to happen soon, especially if they lose another game or two, or some type of controversy happens and it's a bad loss. Is where Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh, the impression is that they just do not like each other.
Right. Correct.
And then that's just it's somebody they're kind of taking jabs at each other in the press conference, right? Saleh's talking about we're doing too much to this cadence stuff, and Rodgers like, well, maybe they shouldn't jump off sides.
It's hard to believe Rodgers isn't getting along with someone.
It is, but I kind of side with Rodgers on that.
I know.
Hey, man, I've been doing this my entire career. It's not my fault these idiots are jumping off sides.
Yeah, no, I actually do agree with you. And like, honestly, I don't know what Saleh has done to prove that he is like, the guy or like that he deserves Rodgers' respect, honestly. Like, I think the Jets were supposed to be a really good defense this year, and I don't think they've performed probably like they wanted to. So, I think, Saleh is probably on thin ice. It would not be surprising if he was one of the first coaches to be fired, if things continue to be pretty uneven on that side of the ball. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this thing all goes.
Where do you put the game there against the Seahawks there on Monday night? I mean, I found myself, Danny, taking a step back and going, okay, they lost by, what was it, 13, 42-29. In a weird way, I kind of felt encouraged by how they played. Is that a weird feeling to have?
No, that's validating, because that's exactly how I felt. Okay. Look, they were really, really undermanned on defense, missing like basically their entire starting defensive line. That's really tough. I don't think this is not a roster that's built to withstand that kind of injury situation. It's just not deep enough and talented enough right now. So when you lose some of your key players, it just like throws everything off. And by the way, this is a good offense for the Lions. They're at home. It's Monday night. And they just, ran the heck out of the ball. And so I don't, I didn't feel terrible about the defense. Obviously the defense did not have a good game, and it's not always, it's a bad look to go have the opposing quarterback go 18 for 18. But I really, honestly, just from a vibes point of view, like I was really impressed with how they hung in there. They kept trading haymakers with the Lions the whole game. The offense looked incredible. There was a couple of mistakes, on offense that basically was the difference in the game. If the defense had made a stop or two, that would have helped a lot too. But, I thought, I was encouraged with their fight and kind of the way they stuck with it. They didn't really get down. They kept giving up big plays to the Lions, and then the offense would come right back and throw their haymakers. So yeah, I had the same thought. I was kind of I came away encouraged with everything, even though they lost and even though their defense was atrocious.
How nice is it to have a real offensive coordinator, huh?
Yeah.
How good does that feel? You know what? We deserve it, Danny.
We do deserve it.
We fucking deserve it. The shit we've had to go through forever.
Oh, man.
Isn't it nice that it's like a nice warm blanket?
It's just fun to watch.
Oh, it's just beautiful. Thank God. Thank you, Washington. Thank you for giving him to us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No, I mean, it was so good to see Kenneth Walker back out there. I thought that Geno Smith was just, on fire. DK Metcalf obviously had that one fumble. That was a bummer. But yeah, just a ton of things to be encouraged about. And when, they probably should have had more points. That moving screen call on Lockett was total BS. That was an incredibly bad call. And I don't know why they didn't give him that 2-point conversion. There's a bunch of plays in there where I was just like, man, this is like turning the game a little bit here with
pass
the
interference
calls
in the end zone.
Yep. So I don't know. I was really encouraged. The Seahawks are the right now, and this is probably game script a little bit dependent on terms of like how the games have unfolded. But even in neutral pass situations, the Seahawks have like one of the highest pass rates in the NFL. If not the highest neutral situation pass rate. So it's fun to see them trusting Geno and kind of like letting their stars do this instead of trying to like establish the run or whatever, some of the platitudes that we've heard in the past.
Okay, I'm a village idiot. Explain that to me, the neutral pass settings.
Neutral pass.
I'm an idiot, Danny. You got to remember that.
So that's basically looking at the neutral situation. So you're not trailing by more than one. It's like, I think it's within 8 points. So basically, if the game is not in any one team's favor, like dramatically. And so basically this is a situation where the offensive coordinator can kind of call whatever he wants. You're not trying to come back from a deficit, that kind of thing. So that's what neutral situation pass rate means.
And you know what, we talk about the offense, and I think you and I have discussed this before. I think we were both probably a little bit higher, more intrigued, excited about how the offense was going to be this year than really the defense. Even it's strange to say because Mike McDonald's the defensive, guru. And then you look at what Geno's been able to do in this Ryan Grubb offense. I mean, he I don't know how many stats he leads in the NFL. It's passing yards, I think attempts, I think it's completions.
Yep.
He's doing it when he is constantly under duress.
Yeah.
Danny, just for a second, if Scott Huff can take off that dirty hat of his and figure out, get this offensive line in order, and eventually they will. Imagine if the offensive line improves, and they played, I thought they played good against Detroit, actually.
Yeah.
Or better. Imagine if the offensive line improves, they get better at it. Imagine how good that this offense can be if he's just given half a second more time in the pocket.
Yeah. I mean, I think Geno has proven that he can dice you up when he gets the opportunity to do so. And he's really good in the pocket. He has a great feel for extending plays. And I think that's been a big part of their success on offense this year is just his subtle pocket movement, the way he kind of like will step up away from pressure. He sticks in there. He's really just like courageous in the pocket. Obviously he's had 4 picks. I feel like a few of them were not really his fault. Overall, I've been pretty impressed with his decision-making most of the time. No quarterback is going to be perfect in that area. And I mean, he's made some incredible throws under duress. And so I couldn't be more impressed with him. I'm just like waiting for when are they going to like extend him? When are they going to kind of look at this and be like, okay, this is the guy for the long term?
I don't know. It'd be interesting. That was a huge storyline in the offseason when Garafolo, was on this show and said, his agent, his people have reached out to the Seahawks and wanted an extension, at least talk about an extension. And then of course the Seahawks, shot it down, and John Schneider did, the car wash to kind of shoot it down. And then Geno Smith at a press conference goes, yeah, we reached out to him. We tried to get an extension done. We're like, well, okay, really?
Yeah.
Maybe they will. It's weird about his great start, and all those numbers are great. It is weird to look at just 4 touchdowns and then 4 picks.
Yeah.
That is odd.
I mean, it doesn't that doesn't line up with the eye test in my opinion.
Not at all.
I mean, like he's been really just nails as a passer. And I think a couple of the picks are just like deflected passes, like, you know what I mean? And then that I think he had the one in the last game where it was like the last play of the game. He was just trying to push it in there and into triple coverage. It just didn't work out. But but yeah, again, I've been really impressed. I know all the tape heads out there are singing Gino's praises right now, so that's always encouraging.
Tape heads. Are you a tape head?
No, not as much as I used to be. I feel like I for a while there, I was definitely a tape head. I'm more of like a fantasy guy now, I guess. If you're gonna put me in a bucket.
You know what I want when I see these guys on Twitter with the tape heads.
Mm-hmm.
I want someone like Hugh Millen sitting next to me and just to get his thoughts on what he's thinking about watching these guys talk about football.
Yeah. There's it's an art.
You're wrong there. You don't know what you're talking about. That's not cover 2. What do you think?
I think
would enjoy that.
That's where I have a very strong sense of humility when it comes to the quarterback position in particular, because there's just a million things that they have to do that you don't really like.
You don't know.
You can't understand unless you're, really know what the scheme is, what they're calling for, like what kind of checks he's going into, and everything he's doing before the snap goes into it. So yeah, I don't even try and pretend I know. Like,
Danny, you and I are cut from the same
stuff.
We're cut from the same cloth. We watch football like we're on a bar stool at a bar.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Give us another beer. Do you have any mixed nuts? Can I play a little pool tabs?
Some pretzels. Yeah.
Pretzels are always good. Can the Vikings run their record to 5-0? They got the London game, huh? Vikings Jets. Can the Sam Darnold experience continue? You talk about guys making money. I mean, is Sam Darnold making himself some money?
Absolutely.
He's making a case to be a starting quarterback again next season.
100%. He's going the way of like the Baker Mayfield thing, where he's going to get $100 million. I forget what Baker Mayfield's exact contract is, but it's like it's $100 million, which is not really $100 million.
Sure.
But I think that Darnold is going that way. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens here with the Vikings this season, because they just drafted JJ McCarthy last year. He tore his his ACL? I can't remember. It was whatever's going to keep him out the full year.
I think it was an MCL, but a knee injury that's keeping him out for the year.
Yeah, that's right. And so they're going to have, if they end up going like 12-5 or whatever, it's going to be interesting to see like what they end up doing there. I'm sure they'll probably, just go with the rookie, go with the young guy.
Sure.
But we've seen it happen in the past where teams, the Packers are a great example of this, where teams will just kind of like, we got a good thing going here. Our young quarterback can wait another year. That was Jordan Love for like 3 or 4 years. So maybe they re-sign Sam Darnold and just create a ton of controversy. We'll see.
Well, I am intrigued by 2 guys. And I don't know if we talked about this last week or maybe it was with Garafolo. I'm intrigued about Sam Darnold and then Malik Willis.
Yeah. That's another great one. Yeah.
Where these guys, these rookie quarterbacks, it's always about the system and the team and the coach they go to. And I can't remember who the coach this week said it. And maybe you remember, who said, we give up on these guys way too early.
Yeah.
There was a coach talking about, I think it was Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings coach, because he was talking about Darnold. We give up on these guys way too early and we don't put them in the right situations. And Sam's is an example of that. And again, I don't know if Sam Darnold is going to be this version of in a different offense, or Malik Willis is going to do what he's going to doing with Green Bay. But if you're a team like, again, I'll bring up Seattle. It's funny that we're going to talk about just because of how well Gino's playing. But again, if you have at some point the need for a future quarterback who is younger than Geno Smith, I think I look at those 2 guys and go, could they be a fit here eventually?
Yeah. I liked Willis enough coming out of college. He was rough around the edges as a passer, but I mean, when you have the type of athleticism that he has, there's definitely things you can do in building an offense around him. I mean, look at what, not to compare him to Jayden Daniels, but like look at what the Commanders are doing right now with Jayden Daniels in terms of like incorporating him into their run game. You could say the same about Anthony Richardson. You could say the same thing about Jalen Hurts. Like there are offenses that you can build around guys with his skill set, where you're not asking him to do too much as he kind of like develops and learns the offense and starts to become a better passer. And I mean, like it probably would never have like continued on this way, but like he was absolutely nails on third down. Malik Willis was when he was in. He was hitting, he was converting 3rd and longs for them, and he never showed any ability to do that kind of thing when he was with the Titans. So I think it is a great example and an illustration of why coaching is so important, why sporting cast is so important, why scheme and play sequencing and play calling and play design is all like, it was just a perfect example of like coaching and situation and how that can change, the potential future for a quarterback. I just think like Willis never had a good support system in Tennessee, and I don't know if they really like it was like, I don't know if they wanted him anymore. They got like a coaching change, and so there's just a lot of variables that go into these quarterbacks and their careers, and it's cool to see a lot of these, not retreads, but like guys that have been around the league, Geno, Darnold, Baker, like having these guys come back and end up being starters after years of being backups or being thought of as busts, and seeing them be starters and get good contracts. I think that's really cool. And the NFL needs more of those guys.
America loves a comeback story, Danny.
Heck yeah.
They love a comeback story. Have you been surprised at all? Just your thoughts of Jaden Daniels, how well he's played through the first 4 weeks.
I mean, if you said you're not surprised at the fact he's been doing like basically the best first 4 games ever, like, I mean, if you look at like their numbers, they didn't punt in 2 games, which has never happened. Like, there's like Tom Brady's had like 2 games in his career where they didn't punt, and Jaden Daniels had 2 in his first 3 games. So, I mean, yes, obviously a little bit surprised how well he's done. Because I think like coming into the year, you're like, Cliff Kingsbury, what's the deal with this guy? Like, he feels like he's overrated based on everything we saw him do in Arizona. They always started fast and then kind of like trailed off as the year go on. So that's a storyline to kind of watch this year, is like, can they keep this going? Obviously, they're not going to be able to keep the efficiency and just insane, unstoppable, like the unstoppableness that they have right now is not going to be happening all season long. Yeah, clearly. But I've been really impressed. He's been a better passer, honestly, the last couple of games than I was expecting, just based on my expectations for all rookie quarterbacks are pretty low. So he's been great.
I'm willing to admit, well, I'm wrong a lot, so it's really easy for me to admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I think in this industry, more people should admit when they're wrong. And so actually, now that I think about it, maybe I'm wrong so much I shouldn't say anything anymore. But I was never. It's weird because coming out of college, I remember watching him as a freshman at Iowa State, and I was watching him because they're playing the Alamo Bowl and they're playing against the Cougs. And I'm like, this quarterback, God, he's pretty damn good. He's really good, and I can't wait to see him in 4 years. Like, what's he going to be like? And he never got much bigger. He had a really good freshman season. Did Brock Purdy, and then he kind of he jumped onto the scene and then kind of went away for a little bit. Didn't have that stellar collegiate career.
Yep.
And then he, it's an afterthought. He goes to the NFL draft, right? He's the last pick, right?
Yeah. Yep, last pick.
And then I'm looking at him going, God, look at him. He's just scrawny. He's a product of Kyle Shanahan. He's got all these weapons. Well, now all those weapons are gone. And he's still doing it. And I think myself and the rest of America who doesn't believe in him, you've got to believe in him because he's just good.
It is really good. Yeah, it's such a, I think that's him and Jaden Daniels are a perfect examples of like this concept and this idea that you just never know who's gonna like who it's gonna click for in the NFL. Like the NFL is so fickle in a lot of ways. Like if you look at the hit rate for first round picks, it's like less than 50%, depending on how you would like gauge that. And so it is always interesting to me. Like some guys get it, some guys just are good, and some guys can't get it. Some guys can't deal with the speed of the game or the intricacies of the game or whatever. And Brock pretty clearly has it. He's good. I've come full circle, and basically I'm just like, yeah, he's really good. Like especially the last couple of weeks where a lot of their stars have been down, he's been really, really carrying that offense. I think they're last in the NFL in yards after the catch this year, which is total departure from where they normally are. And I think Jaden Daniels, like so far, he just looks like he just gets it. Like the game is not too big for him. The speed of the game it's not too fast. And it looks like he's going to be really good in the NFL. So it is just kind of one of those weird things where some guys are just good and you immediately know that you have a future star here. And then some guys, it either takes a really long time or they just like are never going to be good. So the NFL it's a weird thing. And in scouting in general, it's just like, it's just impossible. It's a really, really hard process to do.
Okay. For those who need some fantasy football advice, Danny, I mean, everybody needs some fantasy football advice. Where are we at right now in terms of fantasy football? In terms of guys you could pick up, drop. Is there a hot name out there that maybe in some leagues hasn't been picked up yet? Huh?
Well, right now, just topically, I think if we are assuming that Devontae Adams is going to be traded, which I am assuming that right now, I think two guys on the Raiders that are pretty interesting are Jacoby Myers. If he's still out there, he's probably not still out there in your league, but if he is, go pick him up because he's got a very high first read pass rate in terms of like he's the guy that Minshew is looking to first. That's his first read, I think, at the highest rate on the team. And then Trey Tucker has been another guy that's been really impressive over the last 2 weeks. He's a smaller guy, but I remember watching him at the Senior Bowl, and I was really impressed with him. And he's kind of come on. They talked him up a ton this offseason. Antonio Pierce, I think, said in August that he had like the best offseason of any player on the team. So I think Trey Tucker could fall into a role for the Raiders, especially if Devontae Adams is traded. So those are two guys I'd stash right now and just kind of see how it goes.
All right. How's your team doing, Danny?
Well, I've got a lot of teams.
How many teams does like Danny Kelly have?
20 something.
Shut up.
Yeah, it varies.
Don't.
I have most of them are dynasty leagues. So I play like 4 or 5 redraft leagues. And so those take more active management. Dynasty, I don't know if you've ever played, but it's like you don't have to do a whole lot. You just kind of set your lineups after the draft every week. Yeah, it's low maintenance. The dynasty leagues are low maintenance.
Okay.
But yeah, like I'd say like 5 redraft leagues. Got a couple really good teams. A couple of teams have been racked with injury, so they're not very good. A lot of so Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen. Trying to think of a couple other guys. Raheem Mostert. Like a couple of my my guys have been injured this year, so my teams are suffering from that.
Okay. There he is, Danny Kelly, every week. Follow him on Twitter at Danny B. Kelly, senior staff writer, Ringer Fantasy Football Show, plus the Ringer NFL Draft Show. It's all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated by 2 diehard Huskies, Manny and Roger, pouring the best local craft beer for the past 23 years. Manny's, Bodie, Lucille, Rogers Pilsner. Tap room open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Visit them at georgetownbeer.com. The work you do, the fantasy football live show. Promote yourself, Danny. You never do enough promotion.
Tuesday afternoon, we do a live show on YouTube at 3:45 Pacific. So check us out on that. That also goes up on our podcast feed if you're not into the live stuff. And yeah, we have four shows a week: Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So check us out, Ringer Fantasy Football Show.
Thank you, Danny. We'll talk to you next week. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Peace.
Danny Kelly from the Ringer Fantasy Football, all things NFL with Danny. And also we do Seahawks and fantasy there as well. And in case you missed it, it will be up on YouTube. You can always listen to it later, the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, the one-stop shop would be at PuckSports.com. Easy peasy for you. Also, please download the PuckSports mobile app. Today, iOS, it's just for Apple users forever. Just kidding, not forever. We are in the process of getting it updated in the process of getting it approved through the Google Play Store for Android users. Also in the process, and I think it looks like it's been fixed, but we'll probably implement it next week. The little glitch where you're on the app and then you leave the app and then the audio stops. It won't stop anymore. So big thanks to Jacob, who's been working hard behind the scenes on that one. All right. We wrap up the Daily Punch Drop with Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by my good friends at Restoration One of North Seattle. A big hello to Trent and Derek. Derek's a big Tigers fan and Lions fan. It's been a good week here for Derek. For Trent, myself, not a good week because we're Mariner fans. Yeah, and we're Seahawks fans. And he's a Husky, I'm a Cougar. So, yeah, not a good week for us. It is your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. If you click the QR code, you will be able to see the QR code. You'll be able to see the website there for Restoration One, and they will take you there and give you the very latest of everything that you can get updated there with the boys. All right, Gonzaga's move to the Pac-12. I mean, it's just a great move. It's a great move. It's a much better brand than UNLV and anything else that they were getting recently from the Mountain West. I know people are upset about how the UNLV was handled, but the Gonzaga brand, the fact that they were able to get those guys, unbelievable. It was great for them. It was a power move on their part, and it was a move that will keep West Coast athletics alive for many years to come. Well, at least until it changes again. But don't discount the brand that is Gonzaga. It's not football, but their brand as a basketball team is much bigger than the brand of like UNLV as a whole. College athletics is changing so much. Six months from now, I mean, it could be all different again. It could be all thrown in the blender and change one more time. They'll go to the market with a media rights deal. They'll find someone who wants to leave their conference in 6 months or a year. How do things change? And I'm just spitballing here. Cal, what is Cal? Is Cal unhappy? Is UCLA unhappy? What are the exit fees for teams in the Big 12? Maybe they're nothing. And maybe they can come in there to some of those lower rung Big 12 teams and say, do you really want to be in there anymore? Or do you want to come with us? We'll give you a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit more appealing to you. And this is just a guess. I would circle two teams that if I were Teresa Gould in the Pac-12, I would say if the Big 12 had some low or manageable exit fee, I would go to Utah and then I would go to BYU. And then I would start with Utah first because Canzano and I have talked about this. I don't think Utah ever wanted to leave. I don't think they ever wanted to, really. I just think they had to do it out of necessity for them. They just didn't feel like there was a plan. Go to Utah. You bring them back. They value basketball. This is shaping up to be a hell of a basketball conference anyways. And then you go to BYU and you say, listen, why don't you come along with us? We'll continue our great rivalry. BYU's had great basketball programs as well, a rich tradition of hoops there. And then you see what, and you bite at that apple again, as Canzano likes to say. Is Memphis still in play? Perhaps. I think there's some news coming out today that Memphis may be back in play for the Pac-12. I prefer to keep it in the Western time zone. Okay. That would be more appealing to me. It's more appealing to me and others like Jim to have like a Utah or a BYU or someone in the Western half of the state rather than Memphis. I would like it to resemble West Coast athletics. I mean, literally, it's called the Pacific Conference. But if they get Memphis, it is a good football program. It is a good basketball program, and it would make sense financially for them. So we'll see. That is Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Coug fans, the podcast of Old Crimson and Coug's Corner is up right now on all podcast platforms. Go check it out. The Old Crimson, we yell and scream about how Boise State beat the crap out of us all over the field. Defense is still poor. It's got to improve, or they're going to lose more games. Thanks, Tips. Coug's Corner, another visit. It's our third visit with Jake Dickert. Is great. Jake Dickert went on record to say that he's done coaching in 10 years. That's it. He's done. He's made a promise to his family. He's done coaching in 10 years. I guess everything can change, but that's his plan, to be done in 10 years. And he plans to have all 10 years here at Washington State. He doesn't want to leave, doesn't want to go anywhere else. Now, again, a lot of times guys say that. I say it all the time. They're all professional liars, but that's what he said. I had a fun conversation with him. I enjoy talking to him every time that we get him on. He's just a real fun dude. He wants to be done with football and do this. He wants to talk for a living. How about that? We talked about family. We talked about his family traditions back in Wisconsin. We talk about E&J Brandy and how that fits in with Christmas at the Dickerts. We talk about ice in light beer, Wisconsin tradition, hot dish casserole, brats, why the Chicago dog should be outlawed. It was a real fun visit there with head coach Jake Dickert. Also, Puck the Huskies. Well, we're going to with Elise and Jordan Reffett. Well, Elise Woodward. They're not married. We'll release that later this evening. Get you caught up on the aftermath of Rutgers looking ahead to Michigan. All of today's show will be up on YouTube shortly. Also on all your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Drink. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shirt, no shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!